states in this particular center that are profound enough to where everyone should actually recognize them as a matter of course. Oh, yeah, we do that. Oh, yeah, we do that because the spleen is our oldest living awareness. So I have a feeling people will be able to dial in quite readily as to what these genetic structures in our behavioral way are doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone who's watching live and on the replay. Thank you for liking and subscribing and helping us grow. And let's get into it.
Like and subscribe, everyone. Please send it around too. Let's get a whole human design community going, right? Yes.
So we're going to start off talking about the spleen, the splenic system in human design. This relates to health and values. And we're going to start off with gate 18, which is work on what has been spoiled, and the gate of correction. And it is part of collective logical circuitry, and it hooks up to the root to gate 58.
And I like that you have health and values. I mean, the spleen is our immune system. I mean, and it is one of the things that's named after the organ that it's named after. It's like the washing machine of the body, constantly washing out the stuff. And it lives in the now. So everything we're going to talk about is existential, right in the now things. Its awareness is moment by moment, much like the sacral. But the work on what has been spoiled, I'm here to correct things. I'm here to make it better. I want to share making it better. And then the not self of this is I demand my sharing, be listened to all the time. Or I get very annoyed if I think they're not taking seriously what is it I'm saying. It's not always our job to take the 18 seriously. And of course, the 18 has a way to beguile things too. I mean, it can simply sit there and try to challenge essentially the authority just to see that it's working. But its job is to challenge authority. That's its job. So everyone knows 18 people. They have something to say about things. And it's a projected channel, so it can get a little bit bitter if they can't share it. And then they really need to step back and say, if I'm getting bitter, that's my not self. That's the not self of this bitterness would be. And in this one, it would stand out, I would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, this one I think would be like very overt. It's also this gate of judgment, and it's recognizing, as it says, working on what has been spoiled. It's here to correct stuff that is gone askew. And there's a lot of stuff that goes askew. So I would imagine an 1858 or even just gate 18 is going to notice all these weird little things and being projected in nature. It's like projected channels just so want to improve. This
Yep.
isn't going right, and I want to make it better. I feel like it's an underlying theme with all projected channels. This one I would imagine would be especially strong and poignant, and it's collective, so it extra wants to share. It's, hey, that is not in line with vitality, right? Because gate 58 is vitality. It's health. It's this wellness. It's this this joy and vitality at life. So the 18 wants to encourage that. And hey, this is not aligned with vitality. Let's fix it. So it's like, yeah, let's fix it. So if it's not heard, it would be so crushing.
Yeah, no, I quite concur. The work on what has been spoiled is really important to this. And so gate 18 will also notice, I mean, it can be picky, and notice. You're right about the judgment, by the way. It is one of the mouthpieces of judgmentation, even though it's not connected to the throat, of course. But what else about 18? It's not only does it want to correct things, actually, it and challenge things. It notices everything. It just does. So I have an 18 partner and I sweep dirt under the rug. I'm going to get told about that sooner or later. And someone who's not an 18 either may never notice, or just that they notice. It wasn't necessarily that I even did it. It's they just unsweep it. It's they're sweeping and then they look under the rug. They're simply going to sweep out what's there and not really think much about it, unless it's a lot, of course. But they'll notice their spices. What'd you do with my spices? Where's my things? I put this here. I put that there. I see a lot of that in 18, and that's a splenic dealio. Where's the thing? You've spoiled my dinner.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good point. And I also wanted to bring up the fact that 18, it's collective, right? It's not individual. So it's here to notice the things that are askew from vitality. It's here to fix those things on a collective manner and in the pursuit of joy. So I know a lot of times 18 can get really persnickety and judgmental towards itself or towards others. And there's a healthy expression of that and an unhealthy, but especially it's like they can get really picky on themselves. So I would
Yeah.
just say, like, be cautious of that, because 18 is about bringing about more joy, more vitality into life. It's not about nitpicking yourself to oblivion.
An excited 18 that can spread the joy of 58 is like a real force to be reckoned with. That's truly excited because it doesn't have to challenge anything. Things are good, nothing's spoiled, and it doesn't live in only spoiled. It's the not self of it does. And so
Mm.
everything's spoiled or about to be spoiled or could be spoiled, all that stuff. Spleen doesn't know what could be. Spleen is existential. Its awareness is in a vibration, and that is only now, only moment to moment, right? That's the frequency of the spleen's awareness, unlike the other two awareness centers.
That moment by moment awareness on what has been spoiled in the aim of creating more vitality and sharing it with the collective.
The good, right? That's what it is.
I'm doing it. So
Me too.
next, next up, we have gate 28, which is preponderance of the great and the gate of the great game player. It is part of individual knowing circuitry hooking up with root gate 38.
So notice we're doing what we did before when we did the root center. So we're going down one side, right? And we're just getting the ones that face the root, the opposite of the root center. So all of this stuff is collecting adrenalized root pressure, adrenalized joy. Here is adrenalized fight. And 28 is not the fighter at all. It's not the fighter. It's just doing the same thing. If 18 is sitting there looking around as to what's been spoiled, 28 is literally looking around moment to moment, becoming aware of what is worth living for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. We have a genetic construct in humanity that individually wishes to empower everyone else with what is worth living for. What's the purpose of all of this? And it actually zeroes in moment to moment as to what that purpose is. And it's got a great fear, of course. Um, fear. The 18's fear, by the way, is the fear of too much authority over it. And the 28 is the fear of purposelessness. And its most extreme, the fear of death or the fear of life coming to an end at some point without ever having figured out your purpose. I always wanted to be an artist and I never did anything or something, just purposelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, we just had the 28 come through with the solar transits a couple weeks ago. And I have the 38, but not the 28. And I got such a rush of, like, I'm sick of being such a lump. And I, like, started
Yes.
working out again and eating
Yes.
healthier. And, like, I'm on this whole, like, adventure
So
now of that. But I was like, oh, wow, this is the 28 of, like, life has to be worth living. What's worth living for? Okay, take better care of yourself and do something worthwhile. And I go ahead.
Well, just when speaking of the transits, so people, you can notice these when they come into your body graph, is what Moni's pointing out. Gate 3, when we had 3 and 50 a week or two ago, um, I noticed the gate 3 in my body graph pretty much right away. That's when I started planting everything. I wasn't sure where I would do this and where I would plant that and da 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 da, and I was only putzing around, and then suddenly I'm in it. Gate 28 will do the same thing. There's a 38 in your body graph. There's a fight worth fighting. There's a struggle worth having. Gate 28 is a big part of this struggle, and that struggle is death to the other. So if you have the whole channel, there's a certain profound deafness and even a willingness to obscure things while you're looking for your purpose because, well, it is the great game player. This thing will play games right up until its sixth line, up at where it could just roll off a cliff to find out what was worth living for. So facing death is something Gate 28 contemplates. It's not just 51 and 25, for instance, or whichever other gate you might put in there. This gate contemplates death. And there's one other really cool feature about this gate. It's the fact that it takes integration, which is above it, 57 up to the throat and 10 and 34, and it makes it become less selfish. if 28 walks into a room or enters the clique of people, that are a couple peeps sitting around, um, whatever integration is there, 28 makes it start to aid and abet the pursuit of purpose. So that's a big deal because think about it, integration could care less about your purpose or any other purpose. It's just survival right now. Integration is just that, survival now. And 28 says, no, 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 there's this too. So it actually pulls, think of how much that would pull people every time 28 or 28 and 38 as a channel are defined in that room. That room will always be looking for purpose because integration is already busy. So just think of the definition of this. You put this in a room, as soon as there's 4 or 5 people, this will be there, right? Almost all the time. And so as much as that 4 or 5 people want to do their own integrative thing, they can't. Something will show up to make the group find a purpose or aid and abet, empower someone there to find their purpose to something. And it shows up. You never get a group of 4 or 5 people together where they're not suddenly try to find something to do. Don't you? It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like you can't help it. It's like, I don't want to find something to do. Well, we can't just sit here. Why not? You know?
Yeah,
But
I like,
then came the cell phone, and then everyone can sit there. Actually, now that I think of it, so
but before that, I like
yeah,
how you said that the 28 as that pursuit of purpose. I really like
the
that
purpose.
as a keynote.
That's its whole gig, man. Yep.
Yeah, I think of the 2838 as the like I have a dream, like the
Yes.
very like Martin Luther King, like I have a dream, it's gonna be super cool, and like let's pursue that, let's fight for something worthwhile, let's fight for a purpose worthwhile is like the 2838, and the 28 is awareness of that pursuit of what is worthwhile.
Moni, I do this thing. I have a dream, you just said. Now, for everyone who's watching this, what we're doing over and over again is we're coming to a genetic expression that is within us. It's unique, it's individually there. It's there all on its own, and it's there with all the rest of the gates. And then we come up with keynotes for it. And these keynotes are phrases or words that describe it in the language we use. Japanese keynotes would sound a little different than ours, but they all come to the same thing. They will come to, it's like a love
Same
language. And
foundation.
same foundation. It's like love. You know what I mean? You don't have to speak the same language to have a love language with somebody, right? You
Mm-hmm.
just don't. Same thing here. Human design will translate just like mathematics. And so I think I forgot the point I was trying. What was the point I was trying to make? How would you
The
know?
pursuit of purpose and the I
Thank
have
you.
a dream.
Thank you. You're right. So what I find is that one really turned me on, the pursuit of purpose. And then we have a dream, because I will take that we have a dream and I started applying it in my mind as we were talking to a bunch of other gates that might do something like that. And I couldn't come up with one quickly, meaning it's a really good keynote. When it doesn't repeat itself too much, that's a good keynote or a good phrase for the gate. I have a dream. I thought of 41 right away, with desire. Desire schmire, maybe it'll change. But you got a dream and you're not getting off that thing. And you don't have to be a second line to be called into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 2838. Absolutely. Pick another one, 5125. You know what I mean? That's like, well, I'm going to leap into this thing. Maybe it's for great purpose. I am certainly taking quite a risk, but it's different. It's not
Yeah.
the same thing. It's not quite, I have a dream, but maybe it's a little, I have a dream right now, right?
Mm-hmm,
But this
mm-hmm,
one
mm-hmm.
is the enduring. This could be, and it has the potential to endure and bring all of that integration circuitry above it along with it. Kicking and screaming sometimes, I'm sure. So, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like all of that. And then another thing I wanted to make sure we touch on with gate 28 is it's also called the gate of struggle. So I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit because that could be one of the ones that you see and you're like, I have 28 as the gate of struggle. Like, come on, like there could be some feelings about that.
Yeah, and so the struggle is, I would almost call the struggle more in 38, but either way, when you have the whole channel, there's struggle. That's the thing. This is called the channel of struggle. It's, in fact, it's the channel that gets the keynote of struggle. Now that I think of it,
Okay, cool. Good, good.
that's what it is. That's why they both have it. I was wondering if I would remember that, but the struggle that shows up in all of this obviously is they're struggling to find their moment to moment purposefulness. And that is a big struggle. If I do this, I can't do that. And if I don't do that, this can't do this. Oh, shoot, where did I put my keys? Oh, darn, I have to, you know what I mean? Oh, no, I don't want to, that's too much. I'm not doing it. And it's like, the partner sitting there is like, honey, come on, we're just going to pick up some pizza.
Mhm.
So you
There's
don't
always
need
some
the
little
keys. We'll take my
persnickety.
car. Yes. And they're
Uh-huh.
just struggling. So, well, I got this thing. And the, the struggle would be the second looker that always looks back to make sure they got the things they needed on their way to do
That's
something.
me.
Yeah.
I have a 38. That's totally me.
Constantly looking to say, is that the thing? Is that the thing I
I need
need?
this. I always need a few extra minutes to leave the house. I'm like, you go to the car. I'll be there in like 5, 10 minutes. Let me grab a couple
Right.
last things. I might need something.
Right. Everything becomes a struggle. And the not self of this gate and this whole channel would be that struggle becomes the purpose without any aim, without any awareness, and without any true purpose that feels fulfilling. So you struggle as a matter of, look at me, I'm struggling, rather than internally as an internal, because it's individual. So it's only it's only now, and it's only empowering me first, so I can empower others with it. And so Gate 28 would love to empower you with what its struggle has uncovered. I love a good struggle, right? I mean, Einstein struggled, all the musicians struggle, right?
Well,
And
and
then
any
yeah, then they give us good music.
yeah, that's part of the like gate of the great game player I really like because no one wants to play a boring game. Like you don't want it to be too hard. Like there's a sweet spot between like way too easy and way too difficult. Nobody wants to play a way too easy game as much as no one wants to play something that's way too difficult. It's that middle level where you can play with the game, but there's always going to be a new challenge, a new little bit of struggle, a new little like rubbing up against something, which makes it worthwhile.
Yes, yes. The worthwhileness, the endless pursuit of that which is worthwhile to the individual, so it's unique. So by the way, you have this gate or this channel. Your struggle is not your partner's struggle or the other person's struggle. And you can't tell them it's supposed to be. I mean, we get into a lot of that in our world these days. It's like, I think this, and if you don't think that, then, I struggle to come to this, and if you're not here, you're bad.
Mm-hmm,
No,
mm-hmm.
no can do, right? Just no can do. That's disempowering, and that would be the not self of that, and that will lead to just endless alienation, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everyone's got their own struggle. Like when you're struggling and someone appears not, like they have their own struggle going on, or they just went through a struggle, or theirs is coming up. Like everyone's got some crazy stuff going on. So
Well, think of what the mind does to us. The mind gives us an endless toy box of concepts.
yeah.
And so, of course, this spleen is going to have so many things to struggle about because it's got lots of rich material coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind that also the solar plex will give it plenty of emotional stuff, but just the mind alone, that will go straight to all the things one could struggle for. The trick is to not allow mind to create the struggle. The struggle is that which fits your strategy and authority, and it feels good to you, and it feels like it's coming from within, and it sort of lights you up, and like you don't mind. You don't mind. It's like that Rubik's Cube. I know, but I'm going to get it. I don't mind. It's like you've been at it for 2 hours, right? And I don't mind.
It's a juicy struggle.
Yep, the juicy struggle. Yes, that's the true self of 28. The juicy struggle that is not taken too personally if others don't feel empowered by yours or don't partake in it or whatever. In fact, half the time they're not even going to share what their struggle is anyways. So,
Finally, we have gate 32, which is duration and the gate of continuity. And it's part of tribal ego circuitry hooking up to root gate 54.
oh, this thing's got a job. I mean, this thing has a job. The other two things are creative pursuits. One of them acts like it has a job, 18. 28 won't admit what its job is until the struggle comes through. But this one has an actual job. It's clocking in every day in one way, shape, or form because it wants to be driven. It's part of the channel of a design to be driven. And it's designed to take a pressure off of, again, off of the root, a pressure to move that wants to move up the ladder and wants to advance their tribal wealth and their tribal security and their tribal goodness. And it's instinctually becomes aware that this is the right thing, that isn't the right thing. This is the right thing, that isn't the right thing. And its job is to measure between conservativeness and liberalness. Sometimes you got to be liberal, although this gate very much has a very conservative nature. It's like, this is what works. It's the way my pappy did it. It's the way I'm doing it, that type of thing. And it's the way you're doing it. And then along comes 28 with its struggle. It's like, I didn't like that way. I struggled and did start doing it this way. And so 28, just like 51 will change the tribe, 28 will too. 28 will come along and say, no, I found this way and I'm stubborn, because 28's stubborn. This one is covertly stubborn. It's not going to let you know that it's being necessarily stubborn, but it is
tribal. It's like an individual that's like struggling and annoyed. Like
you can see it in their face.
You can see it. It's right there. Whereas like 32 is part of the tribe, and so that is tribal cohesion. That's
they're
tribal
hold
hierarchy.
It closer to the vest.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes a lot of sense.
What else about 32? Besides its conservative nature, it has a fear. Now, this is a fear that you will recognize, and everyone with a 32 recognizes this. The fear of too much authority in 18, yeah, probably. That's why they stay away from it. The fear of death without a purpose, I'm sure the 28 can absolutely identify with that. But this one will ring out loud. The fear of failure, right? The fear of, oh my God, I was too conservative. There is one of my first teachers was like, oh, I was taking a class with just one other student, and it was an intimate little thing. And this was long ago, and we were both defined up the splenic side mostly. Me, I don't have the spleen, but it's all on that left-hand side of the body graph. And she totally had a spleen up the left-hand side. Oh, you guys are more conservative. So you're more, and she went political right away, and she brought it into Republican, Democrat, but I don't need to go. Just say it's more conservative. And if you have this, you end up being more liberal. Now, that's not quite true that you end up being more liberal or more conservative necessarily, but she was trying to make a point that one side is it feels, and the other side is business, and it's trying to take care of my personal business, the business of what I need to correct, and the business of what I don't want to fail. Fear of failure is a wisdom driver in 32. If you live the fear of failure, you will fail at the thing that you were supposed to protect, literally. And if you don't live the fear of failure and you just let it move through, it's like, oh, I got a hit. That will the spleen will drive awareness straight into your mind, and your mind will start to look around and be like, oh God, I'm glad I checked that thing out. We almost, lost an order here, or something like that, right? It's like, I just thought to do it. Now that's appropriate way for the fear to work inside the spleen, but not when you're living it out all the time. Like you're living a job that's like, it's constantly going to go south. That's like, imagine living that way, Moni. 32 could easily have this sort of nihilistic view of it's constantly going south on us. It's constantly not working. It's about to fail. It's easy for you to say, I'm always having to fix everything so we don't fail. That type of thing. You can get bitter.
It's projected channel.
Projected channel.
All three on this side, projected.
Yep. Ultimately, though, it lives for the tribe. Tribal gates have that keynote of support. And when you get onto the right side, you add sensitivity to support. And you can add that here too, but it just they don't wear it on their sleeve so much. That's what this gate does. Continuity, I love it. What do you make of the word duration, Moni?
The ongoing survival of the tribe. That's how I see it as.
I can't wait till we get to 44, because 44 and 32 are kissing cousins.
Oh, that'll be fun to go into. I wanted to touch on one thing that I thought was really fun from our holiday series, that gate 32 is lit up with the sun when it's tax day in the US. And I thought that was really funny.
What a waste of 32.
But how perfect.
I protest. I 18 protest.
But how perfect that lines up. I find that absolutely hilarious that the holidays totally line up with human design, because it is.
No, it does, because 32 is very, very conservative. It's 32 checked out all the deductions. 32 decided who not to hire and how to make sure they saved enough for all of that. 32 is like a banker a little bit. The wise banker, not the central banker, but the family banker. 32 will decide how much money to spend on Christmas, and it will say something. You know what I mean? It will lash out if if something is too far astray.
I wonder the relationship of like 32 in the spleen and 21 in the will, because they're both tribal and there's an awareness and like a resource keeping, but 32 feels like it's much more health, survival, safety, longevity of the tribe, where 21 may be a little bit more accounting of resources.
Accounting of the resources all the way around, including who 51 hopped out, who 26 lied to them, who 40 is like didn't go to work or is working on the wrong thing, you know, that, so all of it, and who 45 is trying to tell it what to do, right? So, but it will listen. It'll be like, I got pain. It's like a spider's web. Collective circuitry, yeah, not so much. The emotional channels, maybe. The spleen stuff, because the spleen and the ego, they go together. They just, there's one channel that connects them, yeah, sure, but they just go together. They've always felt like they go together so much, and so there's a conservative nature that does get pumped into the ego. So like a spider's web, a fly dropped onto 32, and absolutely 21 feels that. And so 21, if 32 spots, that something's going wrong on the factory floor, 21's just as interested in that too, as well as 45 and 26, and 40 is going to get pissed because no one did enough work, and all of these things, right? And 44 is going to be afraid. It's like, oh my God, we're all going to, never mind failure on the thing, we're all going to die. So the spleen constantly informing it all. Well, there's espionage in the 32. So there's covertness. Like I said, 32 would be more covert than the other gates, most of the other gates, just generally speaking, because it's got a roving eye looking around with a conservative nature. So it's not always going to share all that. Sometimes it's going to specifically not share that, because it might not be needed. Need to know basis. 32 hands that out.
Now we have just this little overview on these three gates that we just went over with the 18, the 28, and the 32. They all hook up with the root. So they're receiving this adrenalized root pressure to this splenic awareness in individual, tribal, and collective circuitry.
So it's being informed by the root. So what does that really mean? What are we saying that? So it's adrenalized. Big deal, adrenal schmenal. What does that really mean, right? What does the adrenal?
It's receiving that go energy of that gas pedal, right?
Yes. And that go energy is unlike the other energies that show up, because that go energy has an urgency behind it. Now, when we get to the 27 on the other side of the 50, we'll find a sacral urgency, but it's not there until there's a response to something. This stuff is just constantly poured out. So the go energy that you so aptly noted is a powerful thing that never stops. So these gates have a lot of work. So to wrap them up with the idea of never stops, I'm struggling for a purpose. I never stop because I got to work on what has been spoiled and what hasn't been spoiled, and so I can recognize it, and we'll all inform 32 so it can calm down. So 32 can not have so much fear of failure. Fear, like I said, this is the more poignant of the fears. Fear of death without a purpose, I can still put it off till tomorrow, right? It's like, I'll find some more purpose tomorrow.
I have a dream that I can start tomorrow.
Right. Or I have a dream and I didn't do much about it today, but I'll dream some more tomorrow. Right. Yes, I'll start tomorrow. Perfect. If 32 falls prey to I'll start tomorrow, it pays a price. So, and it fears that price throughout the whole tribe, because part of the failure of it obviously is the failure of myself within the tribe.
And like the
Tribe.
survival of the tribe. Go ahead, sorry.
Right. Well, the survival of the tribe, but also, let's say it's not just the survival of the tribe. Let's just say it's something not quite so profound, but it will be seen as its failure within the tribe. I don't want to be a failure, because that's your social network, man.
Yeah,
That's your
that's like a
family.
reputation kind of thing.
Big time, all reputation here. 32 concerned with reputation for sure. So, but this side is receiving all of that root pressure that you must do these three separate things. That's the thing. So to keynote them together sort of doesn't make sense unless you have them all in your body graph. But to keynote the whole spleen, which everyone should notice when we get to the end, sort of will make sense. But I could put some more keynoting on it, but it just seems to sort of end there. I want to try and do the whole spleen when we get to the end.
Continuing on with the spleen, this health, this values, this timing, fears. And so gate 50 is the cauldron and the gate of values, and it's part of tribal defense circuitry, linking up with sacral gate 27.
There's something so critical to notice about this gate. So the sacral starts the light. The sacral energizes the life. It empowers life here on this planet. Because this has a direct connection into the sacral, this is the carrier wave that fires up the spleen's inner workings. Otherwise, we'd still be chimpanzees or something. I mean, we wouldn't have the aware caring. I mean, isn't that one of the things that sets us apart in so many different ways? We know how, we do all that, and our awareness of what we'll do for our kids and our children, all that good stuff.
And the duration of it too.
Yes. So the cool thing I wanted to point out is as it fires it up, on the emotional side, the same thing happens. 59.6 fires up the emotional wave. But when dispersion of 59 goes into the emotional center, it disperses evenly. It's all got it. 100% of that. This fires up like a sequence. It fires up so the first two gates in that sequence are the 32 and the 44. That's the thing. So it gets the big brunt of that hit, the starting of a motor. Where does the big energy drain come when you start up an electric motor? At the beginning, right? Second you hit the switch, you'll see a spike on the meter before it levels back down. That's a perfect analogy for what's going on here. 50 spikes in this cauldron. Now, this cauldron sphere is a world-class sphere. The fear is taking on the right responsibilities. Have I taken on the right? Is it too much? I took on way too much and now I'm not going to get any of it done, or type thing. It's tribal. So it's with 32, 50 is absolutely informing that, just like it will when it gets to 44. And so this word cauldron to me is the coolest part of 50. To me, it says the most about 50. I am the cauldron of values that will receive the pressure of caring, the sacral response of what to care for, of that I will care, and I, the cauldron, will help steer that in a moment-to-moment way all day long, never taking a break, like 32 and 44 in a way, to make dang sure that those values are achieved. And 50 becomes part, for that reason, 50 is part of the law. 44 isn't, that's the four ways. 32 isn't, what is 32? 32 is the Maya, I think, that's, those aren't the laws. So it's a pretty big deal. 50 as a cauldron determines the viability of the values that will then move into the tribal law through the tribal lawgiver, ultimately up through 21 to 45, and it will help set every last aspect that 51 then gets to either break or not. Well, I mean, it's a perfect little machine.
No, it's great. Just funny.
Yeah. The cauldron is as deep of a deep within the deep as is the 29 coming off the sacral, the way it will persevere, and it will persevere along with the best of them, and the well of depth, the 48 with the great well. 50 is taking aspects of all of it, and it's taking aspects of the right purpose. Now, even though it's an individual purpose coming in, that still becomes part of the values of the tribe. Same thing with what has been spoiled. I know it's collective, and the tribe and the collective don't really talk very much, but 50 will be like, yeah, well, the person over there that's nagging at me, but they're right this time, so I got to deal. I have to deal, and I've got the energy to deal because my source wave comes from the sacral, which is the prime motor.
I like this idea also. It's like the cauldron, because it's kind of like a funny word. You're like, what the hell does this mean? This idea of like what you're cooked in. It's like it's the container that you're cooked in within your tribe that then shapes your values and how you, in this idea of tribal defense, you defend the tribe and your people, and like what are the values worth sharing to hold together to then cook the next generation in.
Absolutely. And in that analogy, it's the 50 would be the beef stock and the rice and the potatoes or whatever, the first foundational stuff that is getting cooked up that's going to feed everybody. Gate 50's values are very much oriented towards what will feed and nourish everybody, in this tribe. So that cauldron of values does have to go deep because it has to constantly consider what's going to change over time. If 32 is afraid of change, because it is, that's what failure is. Failure is, oh shoot, everything changed. And so if that's its fear, the cauldron has got that in spades. But it's not so much failure, it's because failure is a one-off thing mostly. The depth of this cauldron is all things. And too much responsibility ultimately leads to cataclysmic collapse, right? It did too much. And so then what would the not self of gate 50 be? I have to do this. I have to do that. You bite off way more than you chew. You feel like it's supposed to be there. It's 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 a value you want to display. Maybe I'm an open ego and I want to prove I have these values and took on too much responsibility. Maybe my monkey mind is open and open head and ajna and I thought it mattered and I thought I was certain and I thought about too many things and suddenly I'm all, whatever the not self of all the open centers can easily be spoken through gate 50, like big time. Now that I think of it, they all can be. That's actually pretty cool. They can all be spoken through here. I just found that out now. Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome. Mosey on over to gate 44, which is coming to meet, and the gate of alertness, which is part of tribal ego circuitry connecting with the will, gate 26.
This one's dealing with a fire hose, even more so than the 32 below it. And I can't say more so than the gate 50, but the 50 is different, just totally different. This one isn't values. This one, I'm going to start with the fear on 44. It's the fear of extinction. So 28 is death without a purpose or just coming to the end and not getting any purpose. 32 is just we'll fail on this thing. And 50 is we're going to fail all the way around too much. 44 is this one little thing will lead to our extinction, or this great big set of things will lead to our extinction, will lead to the tribe's lack of viability quickly. That's what it's looking at. And so what does it inform it to do? Transmit the wisdom that has been collected through 50, 32, 28, and 18. It's constantly and 57 for that matter, and 48. 44 will transmit all of these gates. And where does it transmit it to? The big fat loudmouth of gate 26 when it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can bark out some stuff like a gate 26. I mean, all the spleen gates can say stuff. I mean, ego gates, don't get me wrong. That's what the ego does. The ego will speak, right? No, no, this is the thing and it's got to be this way, even if it might mean a fight or something. The ego's got that willpower. 44 is informing it all the time. No, this is the message to transmit. 26 will say, well, no, I want to transmit this message. Well, you may want to transmit that, but I'm not giving you the awareness of even what to say when you transmit that. We need to transmit this first. So 44 becomes the boss of 26 until 26 protests. And then 26 becomes the boss of 44 and says, no, and you can't have me. And by the way, you can't even make me. I'm the ego. You're just you're cold lizard spleen. Didn't even have any energy until I come along, technically 44, so this channel of surrender is what this is called between the two. The surrender is to themselves first for the viability of the tribe, as seen through the values of gate 50 and as seen through the continuity of gate 32. It's really a stunning process. I have gate 44. And when 44 kicks in me, something is wicked important. Something big just took place. I don't know what it is. And suddenly I find myself in action in the moment. And it's because 44 became intimately aware that's like, dude, you're going to go extinct. Now, my awake voice knows I'm probably not going to go extinct because of whatever, but the spleen doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives us each message basically as if it were the end of the world. Now, if you live in 44's fear of extinction and fear of the tribe's viability falling apart and fear of all those things, you will lose the point. It's supposed to just pour. All of these spheres of spleen are supposed to do what the frequency of the spleen demands. I'm simply here in the now on a moment by moment basis. So when it comes through, if you hang on to it, that means you're literally giving it too much due. Now you're going to have to work with that yourself, but because the frequency of the spleen is moment to moment, the fear comes in and you hang on to it and you start like being afraid of everything around, all the corners that could be, rather than a focused, concentrated, just that one thing. You're going to run awry. You're supposed to just let it pour through, just like the frequency of the spleen demands. Hey, it was that moment. Well, it's a whole moment later. Yeah, I know. I'm a lot less afraid a second later. I just thought I would say that this is a possibility. And then you'll start looking into it. And maybe you'll get afraid again. An hour later, it's like, oh my God, I found out something new. Okay, let that spleen talk. Don't live it out. Let it inform.
That's cool. Yeah, 44 is interesting. I also have this one. And I chose a little history book because it is that like fear of the past and fear of survival. And if we're going to meet and I'm meeting someone new, what do I know about you from the past?
Right.
So this keeping of history and awareness in that kind of regard.
Total fear of the past. And it would be the things of the past that were something not necessarily the best, coming back to bite you, coming back to wreck things. The fear of the past. Nazi Germany is it's a lot. That's a lot of 44 business in the propaganda and the information and the whatever there is. The history books. 44 wrote the history books, 50 okayed it, and 32 said, "Well, we're going to sell that for a profit." As it relates to Nazi Germany in the early 40s, that would be a lot of 44 business.
Historical awareness, historical memory, tribal, splenic, health, values, survival. We're meeting somebody new. What is the history of this? How do we deal with it?
Yeah,
that's really fun.
Constantly questioning that. One cool little thing to note, genetically in our body graph, gate 44, the codon that actually correlates to gate 44, is one of the oldest living codons on the planet, literally, because it does come from our oldest reptilian, not mammalian, reptilian.
Survival. Yeah, it's that ancient survival.
This goes all the way back to the lizard whipping its tongue out to catch a fly. This goes back to that. I think it's worth pointing out, meaning it's deep business. Yeah.
Yeah, it's survival. It's long-term survival, viability.
And dealing with that trickster. So it's day-to-day mundane basis, like what's it saying today? What are we going to deal with today? What's the thing for today? Because it is taking marching orders from 32.
Yeah, and so 26 is the trickster, right?
Yep. And I'm saying it's taking marching orders from 32 up to 44 through that whole, because that's the tribal stream over there of instinct. And so it's taking part of its marching orders from 32 and 50. Everyone takes its marching orders from 50, by the way. And it is going to be broadcast in some kind of surrendered way between 44 and 26 to then transmit the message. I think that term transmitter for the channel is just so valid. It's just such a great keynote.
Yeah.
People with the channel, they always say something. They have something to say about it.
Yeah, because 44 wants to share, hey, survival stuff. The 26 wants to sell you something.
Yeah, and it wants to bark out stuff, and it wants to feel its ego power roar. And that's the perfect outlet for 44.
Over to gate 57, which is gentle, and the gate of intuitive clarity. It is part of individual circuitry, both integration and knowing, and it connects up with the sacral gate 34, identity gate 10, and throat gate 20.
57 is so busy. It connects all the integration gates. They all connect with each other. It's the only spot where that really happens. And so this gentle, how did the Chinese describe it? The way the cool breeze, gentle as it may be, can still chill you to the bone in short order, right? So a cool day, a cool breeze that gets to the very core of things. The reason they call it the gentle is because it's not a motor. Even though it points towards a motor in one of its aspects, It itself is not. It's just the awareness of tomorrow. If 44 is the past, which it is, and it's fears of the past, primordially, the biggest, the extinction of the past, but mostly just the past. 57 is just about tomorrow. And so put it into its frequency. Frequency is moment to moment only, not over all of time, ever, just now. And it's in a stream of awareness that's about intuition. So this is the great gate of intuition. In fact, this is our primary survival gate. This was the first one of integration that made us survive because it knows what for. It can speak to 34. 34 says, I have power. And 57 says, yeah, this is how it's used. 10 is not aware. It's like, this is my behavior. And 57 gives meaning to that. Same thing with right now. And when 57 is connected to gate 20 right now, its big fear is tomorrow. And it can't live in that fear, because what it's really supposed to do is not just basically try and stay up all night to avoid tomorrow. It's not supposed to do anything other than recognize it's not the guarantee of, but it's the potential for extraordinary, listen to the word, extraordinary intuitive clarity in the now, in an individual pulse that's yours first. And I point out certain mystical things about 57. 57 is the gate that you're looking at a flat wall and you see the paint on the wall, and that's it. Your vision stops there. 57 can see an inch or two beyond that wall, potentially through its intuition that, like the gentle breeze, penetrated the wall to its core, maybe to the other side. How'd you know that guy was there? I had a feeling. How'd you know you weren't supposed to go there? I knew it. This is, all the gates that say I knew it, this one says it loud. Same thing with knowing things, or even, you can see beyond the pale a little bit. It can see it. Listen, right now is what I know. I can't really see into the future. It's not that 57 sees the future. It's 57 has the extraordinary potential to have a moment of clarity about the future, or the immediate future, or even the long-term future. Doesn't mean it's right. Again, it's in the knowing circuit. So its voice will sound like I know, but it doesn't mean that it's right. It just means that potentially it's like, dude, how'd you know that was going to happen? I don't know. I had a feeling. And talk about that spleen. That spleen gives us a hit. The sacral gives us a hit that says, it's a response, and suddenly we're in motion. The spleen's hit is quite different, isn't it? It's a splenic survival, awareness, safety, health, values hit. But it's only now, and if you don't listen to it, it'll sort of scoot by and maybe come back later, but mostly it's only right now. So sometimes 57 has the extraordinary clarity to push away the dust that is clouding our right now and see into the future. I don't have a crystal ball. Every once in a while, I have extraordinary clarity into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I'm right. But when it comes true, the little thing, that a nugget that I saw, boy, is that vindication.
It's interesting also because 57, the trigrams are wind over wind, and wind is that subtle, far-reaching influence.
That subtle is the right word. Yeah. It's gentle. If you think you're taking 57 to the racetrack, think again. Or the blackjack table. It's not going to happen that way. That's not what this does. This just has the extraordinary potential. And the only way you get to have it and see it is to be aware that your spleen speaks moment to moment softly. And to take that, quote, splenic hit and start to work with yourself in a way that becomes aware of what that really is inside you. Every spleen person that wakes up knows what that splenic hit is. They start to see it. They learn to trust it.
Mm-hmm. It's like a gentle breeze.
The potential and the gift of extraordinary clarity, extraordinary intuitive clarity, intuition that has no logic. There's no logic to why that works.
And it's interesting also how important 57 must be. It's very subtle, but again, that far reaching, because it's linking up with 3 different gates. Like,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
interesting.
Well, let's keynote those gates real quick. I am now, gate 20. Gate 10 is I love me right now. That's cool. And or my behavior now, and or I act out now. 34 says I am power now. And 57 says my power is used for the purpose of what I became aware of that dictates my behavior right now. So 57 is I know I am busy for myself right now. That's the full keynoting of that. 34 busy, 10 myself, 20 I, and so what for? And then 57 is I know. It very much is I know I am busy for myself right now, working for 28's purpose, by the way. 57 serves 28. 28's too stubborn to even notice 57, basically. I mean, that's you put people together, you'll find out that channel of struggle isn't noticing things the same way that channel of the brainwave is. That 5720, it's just not. So 57 then suddenly has to yield to 20 because 20 is fighting for the purpose. So 57's overall voice would be, I know I am busy for myself right now. And I know I have some duties I have to perform now for gate 28 because it won't let me alone. I'm going to have to teach it this human design system. I'm going to have to go help them dig that hole. I'm going to have to, whatever it is.
It's so interesting, especially in relation to gate 57, because it's like the I Ching, it's touching on an absolute truth. So it's like we have this foundation of this absolute truth just exists. And then this intuitive clarity, this awareness to be able to go, hey, that's there. It's like gravity. Like it just exists. And then someone was like, hey, this is an actual force of nature. I kind of feel it's like that, where it's like it's this foundational thing. What's really cool is that someone is able to like peer underneath the curtain to develop it into this whole system, but it speaks to the program, the absolute truth that's underlying all of it.
Something is so special about mankind, generally speaking, humanity as a whole. There's something ordained inside of it. There's some special nugget that I've yet to. It's the life force. It's plenty of things, but there is something very special inside of all of it because I do notice that humans keep getting downloads. Ra did not invent this information. He was given it over the course of 8 days by a force he called the voice. Now, today we would call, I mean, I would just call that download. I don't know. They would have called it an act of God back then or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they call it an act of God now even, but point being, they couldn't have known all the thing that it would do. They did not know to say the word genetic codon and that we have 54 of them constantly sewing us up in our chemistry day in and day out. They couldn't have known any of that. I do know one thing, the I Ching, and tell me if this is true, Troy, that the I Ching itself would say, these are your ways. And so the master would try and teach the student the ways, and the student would say, but master, what ways am I? And so he couldn't tell. Couldn't necessarily say, well, you're this way, this way, this way, this way. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
way they could have put all of this together. They just like, these are the 64 ways, and so you are some of these ways.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the teachings of the I Ching in mistakenly informed people you have to be all 64 ways. You better get a command of all of it, and you're not a Shaolin priest until you have it all or something. I bet you some people did that and went crazy doing it.
Finally, we have gate 48, which is the well and the gate of depth, which is part of collective logical circuitry hooking up to throat gate 16.
Okay, so if 18 is looking for what has been spoiled, as it finds them, it drips that awareness. Remember, awareness center, and that awareness drips into the well. So if you have a watertight container and you start dripping a drip in it, sooner or later the container fills up. That's what 48 is doing. This, well, it's almost like a cauldron, but it's all collective logical. It's trying to go to the throat. It's trying to get enthusiastic about the depth it's got. But that word depth, it almost doesn't, I mean, just by itself doesn't do it service enough because it's extraordinary depth. 48 ultimately will be the solution-oriented solution maker of almost all things from a great depth of a huge well of knowledge and experience and events it had the good taste and good fortune to bring in the first place. Why this gate is on the cross of tension, I don't know, other than it's wicked tense the rest of the time because it has wants. Gate, I mean, yeah, 48, all the gates of the spleen want something, and they tell us they want something. And so we end up writing books and talking about it and breaking up and getting married and all these things because of these wants. You know, it's good to know them. 48 is just there to be a great well of service. It's supposed to finish the service started in 58.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
With the thing you said about the cross of tension with gate 48, I would imagine because like the fear is not having the depth. The fear is
Yes,
being the fool.
inadequacy is the name of the fear. It's fear is that of inadequacy, and that inadequacy is just to let you know you might need a little more depth. And the folly of not self trying to be spontaneous in the moment because maybe it's in an open center and it just wants to be spontaneous when no, the spleen is spontaneous. That's its frequency, spontaneously right now only. And 48 then wants to be on spontaneous, but let's say it's in an open center. It needs to govern and recognize when it doesn't have the depth. So if you have a gate 48, don't let people go for the deep button with you and try and make you be deep when you're not ready for it. If it's right for you, you'll go way deep. And out of that depth will come the most crazy solutions that are so profoundly cool that a whole genetic process in gate 16 will pick up and get enthusiastic about that and start manifesting it and speaking it out loud and putting it into the world and trying to share all of that. 48 wants to be so happy it's fueled by 58, right? From at the beginning of this process. That's the fuel moving up through the process. And it wants to not be, only corrective as it relates to stuff that has gone wrong. It wants to see that there's stuff that it has a solution that makes it keep going right. 18 looks for what went wrong, what has been spoiled, what might need some correction and some judgment. And 48 is not in the judgment game. That's 18's job. 48 is simply supposed to be in the excited to find the solutions game. And the thing is, when 48's depth comes out, anyone else who doesn't want that shared with them, that will create tension because this depth isn't meant to stay silent. So it perfectly fits in the cross of tension. 48 will bring tension to the arena, to the realm, if it's acting out its not self. And it will bring tension when it's acting out its true self. It does it both times because the rest of the people aren't necessarily ready for 48's the depth of its solutions.
Well, projected
Yep.
channel. And the well wants to be drawn from.
It wants, please drink from my well. That's the only way it can share.
Mm-hmm.
If
And
you
it has to be
share,
invited. Like someone has to come to the well to like put down the rope and like want it. And so that 48 that wants to share when it's no one's drawing from the well, of course it's bitter.
yeah, think of how much that can literally get stuck inside, even right down to the bone marrow. Chances are 48 plays a great part in exactly why it takes us all 7 years to decondition. I wouldn't put it there at 44, 32, 28, maybe 18, 48. I would give most of that heavy lifting to as it relates to the center.
Because of depth.
Mm-hmm. That depth, it's a desperate place. It wants to be drunk from. It wants you. It's like a right facing arrows, except the right arrow people don't quite know that. 48 does know it.
That makes sense. The 4816 is also the channel of talent. So that 48
Totally.
wants to go over it and over it and over it and over it and master it to then send it out to the throat in that enthusiastic expression.
Everything about this whole stream from 58 through 18, 48 to 16, it wants to identify with something and gain some kind of mastery over various systems. Let the mastery of systems be the joy that gets looked into, corrected, and then enthusiastically broadcast and shared into fruition. Health and values, the spleen. Let's tie it all up.
So this is going to be the tie-up, but this one's going to be a little different because the last one we did, it was all 3 root to spleen gates, where this one's got a little bit, a lot more bit going on, because what we have 2 gates that go to the sacral, 1 that goes to the will, 2 that go to the throat, and 1 that goes to the identity.
Everything up top here, you can literally tie up in, this is the manifestation of our survival. It all does the work and literally walks on out of here into some kind of either ego or throat-oriented manifestation. That's how I view the whole top of this. It turns into the capacity for us to transmit the right message, intuitively know that we're going to be safe tomorrow, and draw from a great depth that shares all kinds of wisdom and solutions, all lit up by gate 50, that says it's for these values. So that speaks directly to our, everything below was like getting it going, and everything 50 and above it is gone. It is now. It went. We'd already the train has left the station with these top channels. They now make manifestation of themselves. They don't have to be a manifesting channel because the throat is the center of manifestation. And 48, 57 ultimately get to the throat, and 44 goes to what will be the throat soon enough, because all ego things lead to the throat anyways.
Yeah, all roads lead to Rome.
So I'm going to do it through the lens of gate 50. Gate 50 is a source wave that fires up our capacity to survive as ourselves. 57 says, I survive as myself. 28 says, I must survive as myself. 32 says, we're going to aid and abet that survival as yourself inside a tribe in a conservative nature, and you're going to fit in, boy. And 44 doesn't use the language of boy. It just says we're riding a wave, and where the past is coming at us, so let's make sure we keep it right. 32 got it right. 18 says, hey, this wasn't working. 48 says, I have a solution for all of that. So in service of the values of the tribe, we want our solutions. You better fix this stuff, but don't get too judgmental, and take yourself right now and use that intuition that struggles for a purpose to give us the values that will survive through the continuity of 32 and 44's projection into the future. Its fear of the past wants to project a healthy future for the tribe, and it will enlist the ego gate of 26 and the whole of the ego itself to march off to war if it has to, for the sake of the tribe. So all of these things, when you add it all up, it's all happening in the right now. That's the thing. So it's so easy for the brain to physically feel a right now hit and then start thinking about it all day long. Don't you dare. You could have a lot of gates in the spleen, and maybe so you're a little bit, if you got a lot of gates in the spleen, you're a little like a cat in a hot tin roof sometimes. It could be this. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. Could be this. Could be that. When all you really care about is the right values, the right tribe, the right solutions, pointing to tomorrow with a purpose.
Everyone got all of that? You got to rewind.
Hey, get all that? You can play it back.
I almost wanted to ask you to slow down while you're talking, and I was like, no, I'll ruin his flow.
Yeah, that's true. Guys, I'm sorry, I can't slow down.
He's a
You just
manifesting
have to,
generator.
yeah,
He
you
skips
just
the
have to,
step of slowing down.
you just have to listen to it again. Every once in a while, I do a little bit, but you just have to listen over or put it on 75 speed or something.
Yeah, it all comes out. Yeah, it's really interesting though. I mean, it's health and values. It's ongoing survival in that ancient lizard way, as you put it. So it's ongoing survival. It's existential awareness to threats and timing and history and values and laws and depth. And I mean, it really spans the gamut of something from the gentle, the gate 57, wind over wind, intuitive clarity, where it's like, ooh, like really
Yep.
light, to like laws and values and hardcore, and like 28, gate of the great gameplay, or here to know what's worth fighting for. I feel like there's such a vast range of expression within these 7 gates under this unifying theme of health, survival, wellness, in individual, tribal, and collective. It really spans that gamut.
It fans out. The spleen fans out into all these different things, from collective all the way to the tribe and the individual, into integration and into the defense circuit. So I would say the spleen technically touches every bit of circuitry except the emotional, I guess. It's the only thing it doesn't quite touch,
Yeah,
which is probably good.
yeah, that would almost be,
Counterproductive.
yeah. I mean, there's a reason they're on either ends of the body graph chart, because they're
Absolutely.
mirrors to each other, but they're not in direct communication. The spleen and the solar
Yep.
plexus aren't meant to directly communicate to one another, which is something I've never really thought of before.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So that's tying it all up. I mean, that's what this thing is doing through the voice of the source wave of the values. It's what gives the rest of the meaning to the depth and the correction and the rest of it. Most people should be able to identify with almost all of this stuff because it is our oldest living awareness. And if you have an open spleen, just remember, don't hold on to things that aren't good for you, because that's what it'll do. And if you have a defined spleen, just remember, just because you have your sudden hit doesn't mean it's right for everyone else. So you have to end up being sensitive, right, about various things and learn how to speak to people that do slow down a little bit, in the moment, so people can understand. Because the spleen knows in the now what the other couldn't possibly understand yet until you tell them.
Nice. Yeah, undefined spleens, take care of yourselves. Don't get caught up in other people's good feeling spleens, because it'll bite us in the butt. So make sure you take extra good care of yourself.
And this is a great thing to point out. Conversation happens right now. It can't happen later, because the words have died into there's no sound later, right? It can't happen before. It can only happen in the right now, where the spleen lives. So you have hanging gates in your spleen, you're constantly trying to survive a conversation. So as you decondition and as we bring you into the fold and read for you more, or however that works, and do some more coaching, or whatever it is we're going to do, you'll start to see that as you decondition according to your strategy and authority, you start to see that ultimately, those fears don't get lived out. And that surviving the conversation becomes, I don't have to, I got nothing to prove with any of that. I've got nothing to fear here. That's not my fear. It's not. It can't be, because I'm sitting here in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah, that kind of awareness of, is this like a legitimate fear or not? Like, it's so easy to get like anxieties or the little like flutters or this or that. And our whole system can get really go haywire on that. But it's like, as long as there's not like a bear behind you, if we can pause and take that moment away from like, oh, I'm not actually afraid. Also, trick, if you're like socially anxious or you're feeling weird in a group or you're starting to like get really self-conscious, the trick to deal with that is to reframe your focus on making other people comfortable. Because if we focus on ourselves, there's no difference between thinking about ourselves and literally being miserable. We make ourselves miserable by thinking about ourselves. And if we reframe our focus onto, is this other person comfortable? Then you literally pull your attention away from that self-consciousness, and now you're the fun, gregarious one who's making other people comfortable.
Right. I like that little tactic. I like that technique.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do with yourself is to scrunch your toes, or make a some kind of a muscle movement, something that recognizes, right now I am attached to this earth. Something that attaches you to the earth
Oh
and
yeah, that's interesting.
grounds you.
And that's even, again, that is in a way another way of putting your attention out, like, oh, into the earth, like I'm standing on something. So if you're thinking about that, something that you're standing on.
Right. Which is right now, and it's much more healthy for you, because no matter where you go, there you are. And that's what spleen knows.
Well, thank you for everyone for hanging out and commenting and engaging, because that's really cool, and liking and subscribing and doing all the good stuff.